Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Heroes Ed podcast. Tonight, we're going to be doing the top 10 overall DC villains, ranging from all time ranges and miniseries and everything DC. So, without further ado, I'll introduce everybody. I'm your host, Blake Britton. To my left, Darren Cravanaugh. And moving over, we got Danny Humphrey and Cameron Cavett. All right, so we're going to start off with number 10. All right, I know you guys are all thinking, oh, this is going to be great. It is Black Manta. Why do you laugh?
Started it off kind of sour. He is an underestimated DC villain. Probably the most underestimated on the list, which is probably why he made number 10. But not a lot of people know about Black Manta. He is the primary... the reason is because he's a primary Aquaman villain. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people piss on Aquaman.
It's because he's in the water.
I mean...
Who doesn't pee in the pool?
You know, to let it... Not to let it go in the water, but I'm just saying, like, when they bash Aquaman, it's usually out of ignorance or naivete. Because to move forward on that, because the villain is extremely intense, extremely powerful, and the hero needs a villain of that caliber. Not a lot of people know this, but Aquaman can swim 1,000 knots. He has battles extra-dimensionally. He's traveled through time. Once a year, he fights a Cthulhu-based creature and wins. Yearly, he does this.
Anyone who can fight Cthulhu is pretty amazing.
Yeah, he can pick up a car and throw it like a football. He can hold up a 10-story building. But we're not talking about Aquaman. We're talking about his nemesis. Mm-hmm. And every strong hero needs a nemesis of equal caliber. And Black Manta is just that.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to be a hard ass to basically fight a guy who can breathe underwater when you can't.
His suit is pretty impressive. It can go... I don't know how far down, but it can go as far down as the comics have, I guess, let him without, dying. I believe his helmet has like artificial gills within it that it extracts the oxygen out of the water for him to breathe.
Well, I was going to say, because Atlantis is pretty far down there.
Yeah, it acclimates him to the pressure, too.
Yeah. Well, it has to. I mean, because if you're fighting... Well, see, the thing is, Black Manta, it just shows his power, too, because Aquaman is the most powerful... I don't want to say person. I want to say more of like a being in the water.
He's the king.
He is the king.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the other superheroes, they have to, of course, do their daily things. Superman flies around the world, of course. Batman has Gotham. Flash has Central City. The Green Lanterns, they have their sectors of the universe. What people don't realize is that Aquaman has 70% of the world that he has to cover. Yeah. 70% of the entire world. So that's being anywhere on that globe there needs to be in a moment's notice. And he can usually do it, with the help of his dolphin friends.
I was just going to say, with the help of the sonar and just talking to fishies, man.
Yeah.
Or mammals.
He doesn't exactly talk to fish.
Well, that's what everybody thinks.
That's what people think. And then if people read the Jeff Johns New 52 Aquaman, they kind of just explain that it's not so much language. It's more of like a suggestion.
It's a hypnotic suggestion.
I need a hand.
Yeah.
It'll show up and butt somebody and I don't know. It's Aquaman.
Or when you use the sonar with the dolphins.
There was a villain that attacked Atlantis at one time, and he used the same suggestion on this villain, and the villain couldn't get the suggestion out of his head, and he ended up killing himself. The difference between Aquaman and Superman and Batman is Aquaman will kill you. Mm-hmm. Aquaman will kill you straight up and does not give a shit about it.
Don't mess with his water.
I really miss him with the hook hand and the beard.
Yeah.
Well, to get back on topic, so Aquaman is so amazing, right? He's so underrated. You know, we got that. Now, what powers or what makes Black Manta a top contender versus, you know, more of Batman's villains, more of Superman's villains? You know what?
He's incredibly tactical. After his time on the evil version of the Justice League during the Forever Evil run with all the other villains who were on that team, when they recruited him afterwards and they fought the crime syndicate from Earth 3, that they actually had him recruited on Suicide Squad to be like the leader of that team, the new team, because he was so tactical and he was the only one to keep everyone else in line.
Yeah.
He's a hunter. Think of him like Captain Ahab. He is
With optic blasts.
with optic blasts.
And
Really
master
bad
tech.
mean streak.
Like, he has tech that
Oh yeah.
probably, you know, Bruce Wayne probably has. You know what I mean? And he has like an extremely dark past. If anybody has read into his past at all, basically he used to play off of the seasides of Baltimore, and one day he was just kidnapped by like basically pirates or shipgoers.
Yoink.
And he spent like years and years on this ship, not really knowing how much time had passed. And he was like extremely sexually abused on the ship. Like, and it goes on his past. Like, I don't know of any other superhero that's been sexually abused. That's ridiculous.
Sounds rough.
Then eventually he overwhelmed his captors and stabbed them to death with a knife. Not only that, it stops there, but when he was finally eventually like found ashore, he was dramatized so much by the issue that they deemed him to be autistic because of it. Like, he was going through things. So what they do, they put him in Arkham Asylum. And nobody knows how to handle autism in Arkham Asylum. Mm-hmm. The only thing that could calm him down was cool, cold water. Well, they didn't do that. They put him in sheets, and for some reason, cotton sheets like made him scream and go insane. So they just tied him to his bed.
Jeez.
So he screamed and screamed for years until he busted out and, you know, jumped in, vowing that, you know, he was gonna be one day the Lord of the Sea, and nothing was gonna stand in his way.
You have just you've definitely just convinced me that he is number 10.
Or you've also convinced me that the people at Arkham don't know what the hell they're doing.
No, they don't.
Well, yeah. We see that on multiple occasions.
But it's just a ridiculous story. So I would check him out. I would look into him, especially if you're like a fan of villains. Mm-hmm. That's why he was on my list.
Yeah.
So
he had a great run during the New 52 Aquaman series, The Others. He was really pivotal in that. That was the like league before he was on the league. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great series.
All right. Anything else you want to add about the Black Manta, number 10? Or Blake Manta? All right, moving on. Number 9. Here we got Vandal Savage. Who wants to take this one away?
Basically, he was a caveman. A meteor fell to Earth. He went up to it, curious. I mean, he basically had the intelligence of a caveman. Went up to it. It was warm. He fell asleep next to it. And the radiation from the meteor gave him basically immortality. And I think it also increased his brain a little bit and kind of evolved him. And basically from then on, he became this like warlord over the eons. Amassing power, making big plays in history and stuff like that.
Yeah, they give him credit for a lot of like major events in history and things like that.
Nice.
he was supposedly one of the guys who was a part of the Illuminati that took down Atlantis. He was supposedly a part of the hierarchy that built the pyramids. There's a lot of DC past that, will find him in it, somewhere leading something. So,
that's pretty sweet. So he got the beneficial part of the radioactivity.
Yes.
Much like most of these superheroes do.
He didn't turn into a feral ghoul from Fallout or anything.
Right? Or grow a third eye like in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Boing. So basically he's just got extreme intelligence and
Mm-hmm.
I mean-
and he can't die.
and he can't die, so he's immortal. So when was he? Was it 50 BC? You said
50,000.
50,000 BC. So he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
His
Nice.
real name is Vandar Adg, ADG.
DG.
He was a part of the Blood Clan, and he's obviously the one that found the radiation and the meteorite. And as Darren said, it gave him incredible intellect and immortality. An observer from the Bear Tribe also went and hugged the meteorite as well, and he's known as the Immortal Man.
Immortal Man. Yes.
Yeah, and
So so essentially, we chose him as number 9, mainly because he was a huge part of DC history as far as the universe across the
During
board.
the Batman's Return of Bruce Wayne, when Batman supposedly died and was like going through time, he ended up in that caveman era and met Vandal Savage. He didn't remember who he was, but he knew, he fought him and I believe his Blood Clan and stuff like that.
It's
That
pretty sweet.
reminds me of the animated movie Doom, where Vandal Savage steals Batman's plans, the contingency plans for what he'd do to take out the Justice League, and the villains almost completely neutralize them. It's really sweet.
Nice.
good stuff. He's an overall DC villain, I would say. He doesn't really have like one hero.
Yeah.
And that's why he kind of personified the number 9 on the list for us, at least, is because no one hero has had to deal with Vandal Savage. A lot of them have.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, too, that Legends of Tomorrow, the DC TV show, they're all going against Vandal Savage.
Yep.
He's the main antagonist.
That's awesome.
I mean, during the series DC 1 Million, he ended up teaming up with the anti-sun Solaris to take out Superman Prime, who was basically like just hanging out in the sun. And the plans of these two went over like eons, to the point of like the year, or the century 800, the 853rd century, when they were going to try and take him out with a kryptonite bullet.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty sweet.
So if you got nothing but time and planning, you can do anything.
I think
So-
he's turned patience into a superpower, it's safe to say.
Over 10,000 hours, you can master any skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he seems like an immortal Doctor Doom.
I can see him being DC's Doctor Doom.
Yeah. I mean that because again I'm a Marvel guy, you know.
Yeah.
So thinking about it in my terms, like, oh man, it's got a lot of Doctor Doomisms,
Yeah.
you know. But sweet. All right. So history of relays on Vandal Savage at number 9. Moving on. You guys want to go to number 8?
Let's go to number 8.
Let's see what you got.
You guys ready for number 8? Here's number 8. One of my personal favorites. Number 8 is Ra's al Ghul.
The Demon's Head.
Oh yeah. So now let's talk Ra's al Ghul, right? I wanted him higher on the list, but you know.
Thought it was arguable he could have been up there a little bit more too, but
So
pretty deadly.
His
Yeah.
father is the sensei, who is like one of the greatest martial artists of all time. I believe it was one of Batman's teachers, or I mean, Batman can't even really hold a candle to the guy.
Yeah.
He's also been around for quite some time. He has the access to the Lazarus Pit, so whenever he gets old and veritable, they put him in there. He comes back, or if he's been like wounded to a point where he will die, just throw him in the pit.
He seems to know like where most of them are.
Yes. Yeah.
Like on the Earth, and I don't. Has anybody ever like said how many that he's found or how many there are?
not
They
a lot.
probably have, but it varies beyond every reboot they do. So
I know recently we found out that there is one underneath Gotham City.
that wasn't necessarily a Lazarus Pit. That was something a
It
little
was like
different.
the mist of a Lazarus.
Yeah,
Pit
it
or
was kind of
something?
like the
It was like a
diluted version of
primordial,
it.
yeah, version of it.
It wasn't as refined.
It seems too that there's a side effect to the Lazarus Pit as insanity, and Roz claims to have mastered that side effect, but he's a major villain, so
Yes.
obviously he hasn't. But he handles
We've
it better
seen
than
Roz go insane a little bit. From
he
time
handles
to time.
it better than most who just go blood rage mode, and just start attacking random things. Yeah, Master of the League of Assassins, Damien's grandfather.
I've been trying to find a spot to stick that in. No innuendo. Yeah, Ra's al Ghul, how Damian Wayne is being trained by him. I love seeing that, and it just shows, like you're saying, his grandfather.
I mean, Ra's has his daughter Talia. He has other children, but Talia is the more prominent and popular one. And her and Batman have a thing. She always calls him beloved and whatnot, and he has a thing for her, although he doesn't generally go with it. And
yeah, it's Batman.
Depending on which reality you follow, the two of them got together. She got pregnant, put the kid in an artificial womb, and that's how you get Damian Wayne.
One of the best Robins ever.
Trained by the League of Assassins. One little thing about the League of Assassins that they don't kind of throw out there a lot is that if you are on that team and you lose a mission, you die.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So that's who trained Damian Wayne.
Sounds like the old school samurai kind of ways. It's like, oh, I suck. Sweet. Yeah, Ra's al Ghul's awesome. Is there anything else to add to Ra's al Ghul? I mean,
Tower of
there's
Babel.
so much more. Yeah,
it was a JLA series, JLA story. I think Mark Waid wrote it. In fact, the animated movie Justice League Doom was based off that. It wasn't Vandal Savage who did it. It was Ra's al Ghul. Talia busted into the cave,
in the comics,
stole all of Batman's records and contingency plans he had to take down the League. And basically, they implemented him. They used red kryptonite on Superman to basically amplify his powers to such a degree that he couldn't control them. Like his hearing, his sight, all of it just became super sensitive, and he was out of the count. They hit Wonder Woman with a adrenaline boost that would basically make her fight until she had a heart attack.
And that's not an Amazon you want coming after you.
No. With the Flash, they nailed him with a bullet that he would try to phase through, but it would phase before it hit him, and then it would essentially give him super speed seizures. Aquaman, they just use a derivative of the fear toxin that Scarecrow used and made him afraid of water. The Martian, they pumped him with nanites that would essentially, whenever he was in the air, he would catch fire, which is the Martian's weakness. And with Green Lantern, whenever Kyle used to fall asleep with his ring on, well, they just had someone come up and give him a post-hypnotic suggestion that made him think he was blind, and the ring made him blind. And he just took out the lead.
Wow, so they actually adapted that, and they changed not only Ra's al Ghul and Vandal Savage, but they changed all the ways that Batman would have taken them out, too. That's pretty cool, then.
And then
so
they had
completely different,
he had a
but similar
device that essentially made all of the world couldn't comprehend language. And unless you were wearing a special earpiece, you were screwed.
In the Trinity is a great story where he actually gets Bizarro to help him. He thaws Bizarro out, and he gives Bizarro a little amulet that is his friend and all that. And he's this Racer Cool is Bizarro friend. Like he has beat Wonder Woman senseless really bad. Like it's a great story.
All right, so Ra's al Ghul was good discussion of Ra's al Ghul. Moving on to number 7. Drum roll, anybody? It's an awesome drum roll. Number 7, Deathstroke, the Terminator. Maybe not the Terminator.
Coincidentally, had that name 4 years before the Terminator movie came out. So, suck it.
So that means Deathstroke should be played by Arnold in the next movie.
No, let's not. No, not at all.
No.
I am the Terminator.
Deathstroke. Let's not do that.
I'll hold out on the rumors that it's actually Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's kid. That would be pretty sweet.
That would be sweet.
Oh, and Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Deathstroke.
Yeah. Deathstroke the Terminator. Like we said last week, he was created before Deadpool. He was created before the Terminator. He is the original Deathstroke the Terminator.
The original.
The original.
Slade the Schwarzenegger
Slade
Wilson.
Joseph Wilson. He was written by Mark Wolfman to be a villain for Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans, and that was, I want to say like 1981, and he's been rolling strong ever since.
Yeah. But I'd say one of the most popular of the all-around DC villains. That's why we chose him at number 7.
Yeah, he can really fit in any story because he's a paid mercenary,
Yep.
so he just goes where the money is.
Oh, wait, just like
Paid mercenary assassin. I've always kind of told myself in my head, like if Bruce Wayne ever like went evil, like if he ever took to the bad side instead of the good, this is kind of reminding me of that human that would be in that role.
Oh yeah.
Well,
you
he's
know,
also he is superhuman.
Yeah,
Where Bruce is a normal man to a point.
that's
Deathstroke,
true. I forget
he's-
that sometimes.
He's got heightened intelligence. I believe his reflexes are enhanced, and he does have a healing factor.
Yeah, I mean, they say that he even has like a slight superhuman strength and all that kind of stuff.
Because I mean, he was. If you go with his original history, he was created by the government with an experiment to stop. Wasn't it True Serum? And it basically gave him the heightened intelligence and the speed, the strength. And then he went into mercenary work while he was still in the army. One of his, because he only has one eye, and the way he lost it was in the original storyline. He came home one night after doing some mercenary work. Some people that he had pissed off came, busted in his house when he wasn't there, had his son Jericho in like a had him hostage, and basically Slade took the shot, killed the guy, but the guy took the knife that he had at Jericho's throat, cut Jericho's throat, made him mute. And his wife got mad at him, was like, how dare you do this work and endanger your family, and shot him in the eye. And that's how he lost his eye initially.
Another loving relationship.
Yeah.
Awesome backstory.
Yeah.
It's an excellent backstory.
And I mean,
Yeah.
basically, he had 3 kids. One's dead. Jericho had the ability to. He was a Titan for quite some time, and then he went evil. But he had the ability. He couldn't talk, but he could like possess people. And then there's Rose Wilson, and she's also missing an eye, and she's kind of like a character a lot like her father. She went by the name the Ravager for quite some
yeah,
time,
actually,
which
his
was
son went by
yes,
the same name.
Yeah.
So for some reason, his kids like that, the Ravager.
And his kids all can't stand him. He's all pretty much screwed them all over. He loves them, but things happen and they get mad at him.
Like a lot of us.
Yeah.
You know, we
It's like-
don't get along with our fathers sometimes.
Every teenage guy, girl, don't like their parents so much anyway.
Well, for a while he was training Rose in like the way that he does things, and I believe she plucked out her eye. I don't quite remember how she lost it, but she was wearing a patch over it, and she ended up fighting either Superman or Superboy. And whenever they would get close to her, they would get weak. And she pulled off the patch, and she had a piece of kryptonite where her eye should be.
Interesting.
Daddy was like, try that. That's the thing, is he is deadly and devious. Was the storyline I was telling you about, Secret Identity? What was it? Wasn't that the name of the series? Where
Okay.
Ralph Digby's wife gets killed and everyone's trying to figure out who did it?
Identity crisis.
Identity Crisis.
That's it. I knew I had identity.
He was paid to basically take on the League. And
This is awesome.
in that fight, I mean, Wally West, who was the Flash at the time, who was a former Teen Titan, he's fought Slade for years. And he's like, I got this. Well, Slade's fought him for years too, and he's planned for it. And basically set micro explosives where he know that Wally would zig and zag, took him out. Green Arrow comes at him, takes a swipe at him. He takes a swipe at Arrow with the sword, and basically, Arrow ducks. And it ends up cutting all the fletching off of his arrows, so he can't use his arrows against him. Black Canary's going to use her Sonic Scream. He just throat chops her, takes her down.
Chop.
Kyle comes at him, and he's going to use the ring, and Slade grabs a hold of his hand and basically forces his will upon the ring. And it's stronger than Kyle's, and Kyle couldn't use the ring. And basically the only way they were able to take him down is Arrow jumped on him, took one of his busted arrows, and shoved it in his eye hole where his bum eye is. And he escaped, but he took down a majority of the league right
Yeah, and
there.
at the end, didn't he jam it in the wall with a note that says to Green Arrow, "This isn't over. This is yours.
Yeah.
This isn't over." Yeah, he was hired as a bodyguard by Dr. Light in that series. Identity Crisis. That's what actually got me on the ball, continuously rolling to collect DC Comics. Blown away by that series. Highly recommended. probably why I like Deathstroke as much as I do. So, but I mean, honestly, the list goes on. He's a master martial artist, hand-to-hand combat, swordsman, marksman, skilled in stealth, access to high-tech weapons, mastery in bojutsu and jojutsu, multilingualism. It just keeps going and going.
Well, wasn't Forever Evil? He was actually working for the crime syndicate.
Yeah.
And then they were fighting against Luthor, Batman, and some of the villains that Luthor had pulled together. And then Luthor's like, "Hey, join my team. I'll write you a bigger check."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
where's the check?"
Go where the money's
Pretty
at.
much.
And switch sides.
He is a mercenary.
Damian did the same thing when he showed up in Robin, Son of Batman. Him and Nobody were excavating that ruin for one of his repentance missions for the Year of Blood. And Deathstroke showed up, and Damian's fighting him. He's doing pretty good, but he's like, I can't keep this up. You know, he's going to get here. We can't finish our mission. So to just get him off of his trail, he just wired him like $6 million.
Yep.
And he's like, well, that's a shitload of money, kid, so I can't turn that down. And he just left.
And that's the best part about that. It's just like you just pay him off on any sort of, well, not any sort of high amounts of money.
Yeah.
That was such a good book, though.
Damian had to pay him a lot because Damian pissed him off. He was like throwing snakes at him and just like, he's an assassin too, you know,
Yeah.
and trained by Batman as well. So he
Yeah.
was holding his own, but there was a mission at hand.
Yeah. Damien.
Best Robin ever.
Yeah, I know. I wish he was a villain. We could talk about him tonight.
Versions of him that are villain.
All right. Number 7's good. Number 6. You ready? Black Adam.
Shazam.
It's like file.
Main villain of Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes back and forth.
I feel you should
Black
stab
Adam's
one in there every episode we do. It's like, that was also taken.
Shazam.
Thanks, Liefeld.
Don't even get me started on that, man. I hate him
To
so
me,
much.
he's always seemed way cooler than Captain Marvel. First of all, he's not a little kid. Like, you know.
Well, he doesn't say like, "Gee golly," you know, "Holy moly,"
Well, it's
or
just
anything
that
like that.
even if he was like some Arabian kid, like, you know, but he's not a little kid at all. He's like
Just
grown
Black
ass man,
Adam.
you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He hangs out in like a
Kandak.
He's
the
a
ruler of
dungeon.
Kandak.
Yeah. Hangs out with white tigers. And like, he's just
That's just cool.
really intensely cool.
Yeah,
And-
he's almost like an anti-hero, really.
yeah.
Because his people actually love him. He's a dictator. He is a dictator.
And he
I
has
fear and love him very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, if a dictatorship worked, I guess, which is a bad thing to say. But these people are genuinely happy.
and he has the same power set as Shazam / Captain Marvel, where he says the word Shazam, he gets struck by lightning, and then he gains the powers of, I believe, Egyptian gods.
It's an acronym for their names individually. They're both different.
Yeah, and he is essentially like Captain Marvel, the mightiest mortal. If he were to go against Superman, given that his abilities are mystic, he would just beat him down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Annihilation.
In Forever Evil, when he went up against Ultraman, who was the Earth 3's version of Superman, he was beating him down pretty bad. And it was funny because Grid, their evil version of Cyborg, was just like, you might want to be careful. He's like, why? You have an incoming. And on the next panel, you see as Black Adam has him by the throat, and he's just like hitting him and just calling lightning on
Yeah,
him.
he's relentless.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is
Ruthless
awesome.
and relentless. If someone comes to his land and basically just gives him a little bit of grief, he will rip them in half. He has no... He will do it.
He was one of those villains in that group that ended up fighting those Earth 3 villains who's like, no, this is my world. I'm the bad guy here. You know, like, go back home.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's actually rumors that The Rock wants to play him.
No,
He
The
is
Rock
gonna
is
play
going to
him.
play him.
Is he?
Dwayne
That's great.
Johnson?
100%
Yeah.
confirmed.
It's like perfect.
That's awesome.
In fact, was it, I believe, I'd say maybe about a year ago when they had dropped the information about him playing the part, he was given the guy who's going to play Superman in Batman versus Superman, Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
He was kind of calling him out like, oh, I want to see like, Black Adam go up against Superman. Like, we should do that. But yeah, I think that'll be a pretty good choice. I mean, if you know what Black Adam looks like, Rock's pretty dead on.
Yeah, give him pointy years, and he pretty much fills the role.
Yeah.
And as soon as he was allowed to announce it, he took to like Facebook and everything. It was just like, so happy to do it. I think he's going to do a great job.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they have the villain cast and announced before the main hero.
That just goes to show you how awesome and more popular he is.
Yeah. Well, and just how much better DC villains are. Well, I mean, obviously you got Batman movies and you got some good Batman movies, but you watch them for the villain. I mean, look at Dark Knight Returns. You didn't watch Batman Dark Knight
Villains are
Returns
the
for, you watched it for Heath Ledger's Joker, which he did an incredible job.
And Two-Face.
Yeah.
All right. Any more on Black Adam?
He's the man.
He's the man.
He's pretty cut and dry. You don't mess
There's
with him.
not a lot to him. I mean, basically, you can look into the gods that he worships that gives him his powers. But basically, he can summon lightning. He has super speed. He has flight. He has endurance. All that wrapped up in a magical being that can take down the strongest superhuman in the DC universe.
So he's that Pathfinder character that you strive for.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll call him the Munchkin of the DCU.
Yeah, let's not forget to throw in immortality because he's also immortal.
Oh, yeah.
In those terms, if Captain Marvel's like a paladin, he would be a blackguard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's perfect comparison.
All right, moving on to number 5. So starting off, I'm just going to review really quick. We did starting off with 10, which is Black Manta. Going to 9, Vandal Savage. 8, Ra's al Ghul. Oh, yeah. 7, Deathstroke the Terminator. And 6, we just did Black Adam. Moving on to Sinestro. In the current run, he's not a villain. I know that.
It
He's
depends
an
on how you look
arguable
at it.
villain.
Matter of point of view.
I mean, his full name is Thal Sinestro. He was an archaeologist on the planet Kuergar in the Sector 1417. A Green Lantern showed up on his planet and basically defended him, died in the process. The ring went to Sinestro. He ended up finishing off the people who were attacking him. And the Lantern, who was still alive, but barely, was like, well, give me back the ring, and then, I can go and get healed and go back to Oa. And Sinestro's like, no, and kept it. And so he went to Oa, was trained by the Guardians, and became essentially one of the best Green Lanterns. The problem was, in fact, he trained Hal Jordan. The problem was that he ruled his planet with an iron fist. And when Hale kind of found out what he was doing, he blabbed at the Guardians, and the Guardians took away his power. In fact, after Sinestro was dethroned, he was sent to the antimatter universe, where he was found the Quard weapon makers and the Weaponeers, and they made him a yellow ring, which at the time was the antithesis to the green ring.
Just like the current run.
Yes and no. The green ring used to have a weakness to yellow. That is no longer not a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was before they had the emotional spectrums like they do now. It was just the yellow ring would feed off the green ring, and that's what powered it. And, stupid weakness.
Yeah.
And he would occasionally show up and
It's a
fight
lot better
Hal
than
Jordan.
wood.
No, that's the original Green Lantern.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's about as stupid as Alan Scott's costume at the time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's been a thorn in Hal Jordan's side for quite some time. When Hal went nuts and basically destroyed the core, Sinestro was freed by the Guardians, and we're like, fight that guy.
Yeah.
Fight him. Like, protect us and fight him. And he did, and it looked like Hal had killed him, but in reality, he didn't. And Sinestro showed back up quite some time later with another yellow ring. And that's kind of when they started getting into the emotional spectrums, the yellow ring being fear, green being will. And now he is the leader of his own corps, the Sinestro Corps.
And he's one of the most successful villains currently, I think I would say. He
You wore it just for this,
big
didn't you?
fan. He's I think it's one of my top 5 books I'm reading right now. He's done so much. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read. He's tamed Parallax. He kicked Mongol's ass and took War World and stabilized it with Parallax. He took the last Blue Lantern and retrained him so that his Blue Lantern can now, powers can now recharge fear batteries instead of willpower.
And by retrain, we mean torture.
Yeah, basically. He's got a cool new Sinestro tattoo or skin graft, however you look at it. He recently recruited a new Yellow Lantern who can do a vivisection and just completely just separate all of your organs and bodies and stuff just instantly.
And he's also brought in a new god.
Yeah.
One of the Sinestro Corps is a new god. One of the from the planet New Genesis. And
yeah,
I mean,
she's one of his many new recruits.
Yeah.
He's recently given rings to yellow rings now that the Green Lantern Corps is gone to help defend Earth from these new gods. He's given rings to Superman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Deathstroke, Scarecrow. I seen Constantine got one, Black Manta, the Demon, Creeper. He's basically going to war with these guys over Earth.
Because initially the Lanterns were in charge of keeping the peace in the universe. They're gone now. The only one being left is Hale, and that's because he doesn't have a ring. Mm-hmm. And Kyle, who's dealing with the whole Omega Men. Good book, by the way. But he's come to Earth. Well, the Reds were in charge of Earth for a while. The Red Lanterns, now they're gone. And which is kind of his fault, too. Because Sinestro waged war in all the other colors by hiring Lobo to go kill them all.
Which was a cool
Lobo.
arc.
I love Lobo.
Not like old Lobo, skinny Lobo that is all sexy or whatnot. I don't know.
Actually, both books were written by the same writer, Cullen Bunn. And at the first issue of that, Lobo kills old Lobo.
But now he's got this army at his control. He has his daughter, who was a Green Lantern. She's a doctor. Sornik Natu. He took the Green Ring away from her. In which case, saving her from the fate of the other Lanterns, the Green Lanterns, and gave her a Yellow Ring. And basically, he's doing a pretty good job of protecting the universe.
Yeah, and making the remaining group of his people pretty happy.
Yeah. Also, the only person he really calls friend is actually Black Adam.
Yeah, who also he gave a Yellow Ring to recently.
You give Black Adam even more power?
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned him, but he gave a lot of people rings.
Yeah. all in the defense of Earth, basically temporary deputies.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Sinestro. Cause I'm reading the current run. It's good stuff.
Yeah, he was also on that Justice League version of the supervillains we keep talking about in Forever Evil. One of the coolest parts in that, if you haven't read it, spoiler alert, was when Batman had a yellow ring in his little treasure trove of weapons just in case.
Yeah.
And him and Catwoman are prowling around in the sewers, and the evil version of their Green Lantern Power Ring shows up. And Batman fires a yellow ring at him, and yellow bats come out. It goes by him. He's like, "What are you doing?" And Catwoman's like, "Was that thing have any more juice or what?" And he's like, "No, it only had 5%." And she's like, "Well, then why'd you even grab it?" He's like, "Because I was calling someone." All of a sudden, he's Power Ring's like, "Oh, yellow ring?" He's like, "What was that supposed to do to me? A yellow ring could never hurt me." Sinestro standing behind him goes, "Really? I'd love to test that theory." And then disarms him, literally, removes his ring arm.
Sinestro bound with Parallax, who's basically each color in the emotional spectrum has a creature that is bound to that energy. Parallax is the fear entity, and he basically tamed it, and without it being a problem. Hale can't even do that. Hale is like this reservoir of willpower, and it corrupted Hale. And Sinestro's just like, "Nope, you're mine. I'm bending you to my will and using you as I see fit."
He sicked it on him too earlier in this saga, just to show him. He's like, "Hell, check this out." All of a sudden, it comes out of him. It's literally just sleeping within him, and it's beating Hal Jordan up. And he's like, "That's enough. Come back." He's just got it on a leash.
Interesting little fact about Batman. When he was during the Sinestro War, when the yellow rings first started showing up, like Green Lantern rings, they travel from sector to sector finding someone worthy. In this case, people who can instill great fear. So who's it going to go choose first but Batman? Yeah. And it goes to him and it flies on his ring because they don't ask. Yeah. These rings don't ask. They're like, "No, you're joining us." They flew on his ring, and it's like Bruce Wayne of Earth. Section 2814, you have the ability to instill great fear. And then it's like, getting kind of confused, and it's like, wait a minute, you wore a green ring at one time. No, flew off his ring, his ring finger.
You were
But he
no longer
kept it.
worthy. See
But
it?
during the war, he found one and he kept it, and that's why it was in his little box, just like a get out of jail free card.
That is
It's
awesome.
funny when he tried to recruit Lobo, and Lobo's like, "No, dude, I told you no," and
Yeah.
he bites his finger off, and it just regenerates and spits it out, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, stop it."
Wow. So, Danny, it looks like we're going to have to read more Sinestro, huh?
I guess so.
Because
I'll stick to my Flash.
Yeah.
That's all.
My favorite Lantern is the Red Lantern. I like Guy Gardner.
He's the man.
Like
Guy Gardner, yeah.
you know, he's always been my favorite Lantern. Even when the day he got pwned by Doomsday and punched in the face by Batman.
Oh, yeah, you mean One Punch?
Yeah. You know, he's a cocky smart aleck, but I've always liked him.
And he did have a yellow ring at one time. In fact, he had Sinestro's ring at one time when he got pwned by Doomsday.
Well, that's good on Sinestro. I think he deserves his 5 spot. Maybe even farther after hearing that discussion. But here we go. Moving on to number 4. Reverse Flash. I should have said it in reverse. I should have done it. I really should have.
Set it in reverse.
Yeah, like a
Flash
self is severe. But what do we got about Reverse Flash? Does he run backwards?
No, he does not run backwards, thankfully. Where the name comes from is originally the character is his name is Eobard Thawne. He comes from the 25th century. And he was a criminal in the 25th century, and what he did was he had happened upon the Flash Ring in the 25th century museum. And he basically took the Flash Ring, and he was able to get the Speed Force. He was able to contain the Speed Force from the Flash Ring. And he was able to... He wanted to direct it in reverse so that he can go back in time.
That's awesome.
Okay, because he was actually a big fan of the Flash. He wanted to go back in time, and when he directed the Speed Force in reverse, it actually changed the colors of the original costume to its opposites.
Yeah.
Which is the original reason why the costume is yellow and red. The lightning bolt is black instead of white. Basically, he goes back in time, and he brings with him the original time capsule, like that he had found the suit in the museum in. What he didn't I don't know if he realized it or not. Actually, I'm not sure, but he actually also brought back an atomic clock. Okay. But when he brought it through time, the atomic clock became an atomic bomb.
Nice.
So basically, Flash, at that point, in order to beat Eobard Thawne, he had to basically use a friction, like he had to use a frictionless suit in order to catch him, I guess. He eventually caught him, and he eventually returned him to the 25th century, dismantling the bomb, of course, while doing so. And they actually erased his memory while bringing him to the 25th century. He doesn't remember what he did, what happened, but he does remember Barry Allen bringing him back to the future. And that little single note made him want to keep trying to go back.
Yeah.
And keep trying to be the Reverse Flash, continuously trying and trying.
Yeah.
Eventually he did. He eventually came back in time again. He was, of course, pissed that Barry Allen sent him back to the future. And he noticed that he lost some memories, so he figured that Barry Allen had done something to that to make his memories go away. So now, being his arch nemesis and wanting to hurt Barry as much as he possibly could, he ended up taking Barry's fiance's life.
Mm-hmm.
Iris Allen. He killed her by vibrating his hand through her skull. Basically, like making her brain dead immediately.
Oh wow, that was in Crisis, wasn't it?
No, that was before Crisis. I
Yeah,
believe.
it was. It's Silver Age Flash.
Wasn't it a costume party and she was dressed as Batgirl
Yeah.
and he came well dressed as himself and basically was just like. Zoop.
Yeah, they were leaving the costume party to go out to dinner after the costume party, and he literally ran right up on the lawn, and like went right into her head,
That's evil.
and then
That's
like
pretty vicious.
just
Yeah, I was
took
gonna
off
say.
basically.
See ya.
Obviously, Flash lost it.
Yeah.
But he didn't catch him. Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, got away.
No way.
Went back to the 21st century. I won. Blah blah blah. Flash had to get over that. You know, he had to move on. So a couple years goes by. He ends up dating someone else. Coincidentally, asks her to marry him.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, here comes,
comes
Reverse
back?
Flash again.
What did-
He tries to do the same thing. Barry doesn't allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Ends up catching a Reverse Flash off guard, and the original Eobard Thawne dies because Barry snaps his neck.
Good. Why would he come back? That's a
And
dick move.
like obviously it was a big issue like back in the 80s. Oh my goodness, a
Yeah.
superhero killed a supervillain.
Yeah.
He was actually like voted out of the Justice League for a while because of it.
No way.
Yeah.
Even after
they
what he
actually
did? Come
put
on.
cuffs on him, and they show him like Flash busted bars, like, and like he's like this on the cover, and then like all the heroes are like, oh, what? Oh. You know what I mean? But you know, it's one of those classic Silver Age covers. It's a great story, but that's pretty much the origin of Reverse Flash. Now, after the Crisis. They sort of rewrote the character as they did a lot of characters after Crisis of the Infinite Earths. Basically, in this instance, Eobard Thawne was the prodigal forefather of who we know now as Impulse.
All right.
Okay, it was still in the 25th century, only now this Eobard Thawne is much like, it's kind of a mix between its own background story and the new Flash show on the CW.
All right.
Where he was actually a metahuman detective in the 25th century, and he ended up like revering the Flash as a fan. In that future, there was a Flash. He ended up getting crippled on the scene of a crime because he had gone back in time. I'm kind of losing you, but basically, this Eobard Thawne goes back in time to meet the Flash,
Yeah.
same as the other one did. He is a specialty on metahumans, got too close to a Flash incident, got crippled because of Gorilla Grodd.
All right.
Okay. Now he's now being friends with Barry because he was friends with Barry after meeting him. He's like, Barry, you know, please, you need to fix me. Like, can you use the cosmic treadmill of time to go back in time to make this not happen? And he's like, I can't do that because if I do that, it's you know, it's messing with time. I can't do that.
Yeah. So
He's like, I've seen you do it before. You've done it for a bunch of different things. Now you're not going to do it for me. This is bullshit, basically. Yeah. And he's like, I can't do it just because of that. Like, I can't do it. So he ends up getting a, you know, obviously a bug up his ass because of it. And goes to the treadmill himself. Well, he tries to work it, gets it going. It explodes. Now the treadmill, it has that reverse effect on him again. Only it's not a reverse effect. It's more of a time effect.
all right. So I'm just curious now. So what is making him our number 4 villain though? The stories sound incredible. They sound great, but what is making him number 4 above
The
all these
reason
others?
is I don't know I don't know if you know what the Flash can do.
I know a good chunk.
A good chunk. Hopefully, some of our viewers know what the Flash can do. Well, they're saying basically the comics are stating that this Reverse Flash, because he is a timed based Flash and not a Speed Force based Flash,
Alright.
he's up to 4 times faster than the Flash.
So essentially, he can go at any point in time and do any given thing to anybody. I mean, he can go back in time to when Vandal Savage first came to be, kill Vandal Savage, and a lot of the Marvel or DCU didn't even really compose. I mean,
Well,
is this a possibility or?
Technically, yes.
Yes, technically, because that's what caused the Flash the most
Flashpoint?
recent. Yeah.
Well,
Flash-
that was partially Barry, but Reverse Flash had a lot to do with that. I mean, the whole reason we have the new 52 is because of basically the Flash going back and trying to save his mother from being killed by. Was it the Reverse Flash? Is it the CW's background?
It was the Reverse Flash.
Okay. And the Reverse Flash kind of did a dick move and messed it up and caused that parallel reality. And then the Flash fixed it, sort of. And now we have the new 52. Yay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why he's number 4, is because he creates a piece of crap.
Yeah, I mean, he creates alternate dimensions because of stuff he does.
Yeah.
Like even though they fixed what happened in Flashpoint, excellent read, by the way, I highly suggest it.
I read it too.
Everything went back to the way it was, but now some things changed. It's not no longer the DC universe that we all knew. It's the new 52.
Nice. That's what I was looking for. That's awesome.
So,
I think
So-
the Reverse Flash on the CW show is one of the best on-screen villains I've seen in almost anything. Tom Cavanaugh does such a great job of portraying that character. It's just phenomenal.
if you want a simple, summed up origin, that's a really good show to watch to get it.
And it's still slightly confusing because it deals with time travel.
Anytime
It is
time travel.
confusing, but
It's starting to get into multiverse theories, which is pretty fun.
So they should put J.J. Abrams as the director.
It's not lost.
Anyway, so there we go. Reverse Flash. That was a huge description, but it was.
I mean, if when you're dealing with the Flashes, especially when you're dealing with time traveling villains,
Oh, for sure.
it's going to be a lot. He actually has 4 separate origin stories if you want to look into it.
Yeah.
But
Cool. All right, moving on to number 3. Dun dun dun. Lex Luthor.
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 semantics.
Hard OR.
Yeah, he hasn't always been bald. At one time, he was a curly-haired ginger with hair like down to his shoulders.
If you go with the actual original pre-crisis origin, him and Superboy used to be friends.
And what's the reason why him and Superman are not friends?
There was an experiment that he was performing in his lab / garage, maybe. I don't know. He lived in Smallville, maybe. It was kind of confusing. And there was an accident. There was a fire, and basically Superboy flew in, who is Superman. Just when he started his career, he was Superboy.
Right.
And he used his super breath and blew away the chemicals, but the chemicals went over Lex as they went out the window, and it caused him to lose his hair. And he's like,
Yes.
"Oh, Superman, I hate you. I will be your."
I don't have hair
ever."
anymore, so I am going to hate you for the rest of
It
your
was
life.
the golden age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. Long
They
hair.
had super horses and super dogs and all kinds
No,
of
that was the Silver Age.
stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Crypto had
Yeah.
friends.
Crypto and Fred.
Wasn't the super monkey's name like Zippo or Bippo or something like that?
You know that stuff. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's old school. So what makes Lex Luthor number 3?
Well, he's almost like the evil Iron Man. He's incredibly smart. He develops insanely powerful tech. He has no moral compass.
Yeah.
He just does whatever he wants. And recently, he actually was so intuitive, he figured out who Batman was in the New 52 run.
No, it's not like it could
went
be
to-
that hard to figure it out.
Well,
that
to
hard.
us, when
I mean,
it's right
who
in front
has
of your
who has
face.
enough money for all that tech in Gotham City? The one guy that lives outside the city limits in his big mansion by the
Yeah,
caves.
Well, not everyone's figured it out, so give him credit.
And where does the Batmobile come from?
What was great was when he actually showed up at the manor.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, so I know. And he's like, no, you should just leave. Alfred's threatening him with a shotgun. It was a really good issue.
I feel like we're gonna lead into Kingdom Come at some point here.
Possibly. I mean, he's always. I mean, he is a giant in business. I forgot what LexCorp is like number 5 or something like that. It depends on which. If it's pre-crisis, post-crisis, New 52, it's all over the place.
He ran for president.
Yeah, he ran and he was president for quite some time. He's been on multiple versions of the Injustice League. He had a kryptonite ring for quite some time that gave him cancer. And then he got a clone body. Mm-hmm. In fact, that was, I believe, during the death of Superman, where you had the red-haired Lex Luthor. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, so
him.
he was going to lose his hair anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's when
'cause
you're
through the
getting into
cancer.
post-crisis. It was different because they did away with that whole Superman being Superboy when he was younger.
Do you know how much money he saved him on getting haircuts throughout the years? The time shaving his face. It's like he did him a favor. You're going to like wage war against him for the rest of your life? What a dick.
I feel I need to get blasted with fire.
Eventually, the Earth 2 stuff came back, though, because Superman Prime came from Earth 2.
Superman Prime or Superboy Prime?
Yeah.
He's not from Earth 2.
Oh, okay.
The Earth that he's from, he read the Earth that Superboy Prime comes from is basically the. We should have put him on that fucking list.
I thought about it.
But the Earth he comes from,
Spoiler alert, he's not number 1 or 2.
he was just a normal human, and he would read all the adventures in the comics. And then the crisis happened, and for some reason he got all the powers of Superman, and that's where he comes from. So Earth
For
2,
some reason, I thought that he was from the same Earth.
Earth
as
2
Kara.
Superman is the, if I'm correct, is the Superman that has the origin being Superboy. Then he became Superman and stuff like that.
I
That's
gotcha.
that one because he's the older one.
Because that's where Kara comes from, Power Girl, right?
Yes, she is
Earth
the
2.
cousin of Earth 2 Superboy or Superman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then
If
you
that
have
even
Huntress
exists
from
anymore.
Earth 2, who's Selena Kyle and Bruce's daughter.
Helena Wayne. I think that's Earth 2.
Yeah, that's why I said Earth
Yeah.
2.
But anyway, back to
So
Lex
Lex.
Luthor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about Lex?
But yeah, Titan of Industry, Superman's main enemy.
He's always got some kryptonite on him.
Yep.
Always.
Yep. He's always got something. I mean, in the current run, he is basically the one who created Bizarro.
Yeah.
He's always, in his mind, Superman is an alien and he should go back to space. We don't need him here because he's a man and he can do it himself. And he doesn't need the stupid alien here messing everything up.
Exactly. Evil Tony Stark.
Kind of.
I feel he would do
Yeah.
the same thing.
I mean, he even has, in a way, like a suit. He has the purple and green, like, power suit.
Yeah, he does.
That he's created to fight Superman with.
Yeah. And he actually, as a lot of people don't realize, is it looks like he leaves his face exposed, but there's actually force
Like a
field around
shield,
it because
yeah.
he loves to show his face.
I mean, there's
Bird face.
this is before the 52. He doesn't just mess with Superman. I mean, there was a run of Batman where basically Gotham City got nailed with an earthquake, and it got messed up, and the government's like, that place sucks. Why are we even keeping it? And basically, we're gonna just get rid of it, blow all the bridges, and they told everyone get out or you're not American citizens anymore. And Batman and a lot of like Gordon and a lot of the villains stuck around. It was a series called No Man's Land. Well, towards the end of No Man's Land, Lex Luthor, in his benevolence, went to the government and was like, oh, well, you should bring it back, and I'll pay for everything, and basically was going to take over Gotham. And Batman figured it out because Bane had come in to get some documents that had been in the city or something like that. And he had fought Batman. Batman took him down because he doesn't have the Venom anymore. And he's like, who are you working for? He's like, well, I'm working for Lex Luthor. And he had figured out that what Luthor was doing and basically went to Luthor and said, get out of my town. And Luthor's like, all right, you got your town back. It's cool. We're good. Like, I'll go back to Metropolis.
Well, didn't he separate Gotham from United States for a while?
Well, no, that was No Man's
Broke
Land.
it off,
that
yeah.
that wasn't Luthor. That was the American government. They wanted
Okay.
nothing to do with it anymore. But Luthor came back and was going to try to buy it up, and then he would have basically reign over Batman. That
I
was his
gotcha.
idea. And then let's not forget his two bodyguards, which in the old animated series was just Mercy.
Yeah, Mercy.
Yep.
She was awesome.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
But now he's got 2.
he's always had 2 in the original comics. There was Mercy. I don't remember the other one's name. But yeah, he's basically an evil Iron Man in a way. But he doesn't really rely on the suits all the time.
Yeah.
I would say his intelligence probably is that of over Iron Man's.
No way.
Yes.
It's all the alcohol. See, Tony just drinks himself to stupidity.
I think he is smarter than Tony Stark. I mean, during the was it Final Crisis? There was the Luthor from Earth 3. Earth 3 is the universe where everything's reversed. The Justice League is evil, so Lex Luthor is good in a way. And he ended up coming to our universe and shaved his head and started an evil villain union under the guise of being Lex Luthor. And so all these villains teamed up, and our Luthor was like, what the heck? Who's this guy saying he's me? And he ended up taking some of the villains who didn't want anything to do with it and basically was funding them, giving them money to take down this guy. Now, as we all know, when it comes to team-ups, nobody wants to team up with the Joker because the Joker's just going to mess everything up and probably kill a bunch of people anyway. So what did he do is Luthor, once he figured out that this was an imposter Luthor who was doing all this in his name, basically was like, hey, I screwed you over with my bad guys. And, here's the Joker. He wants to have some fun with you.
Yes,
because
that's awesome.
Alexander Luthor
That's awesome.
didn't let him join his little club. But yeah, so he's amazingly smart, brilliant tactician.
One of my favorite moments with Luthor was back in Blackest Night when they were temporarily deputizing people with lantern rings for the emotional spectrum, and he got an orange ring for greed.
And then he started trying to take the rings from everybody else. I mean, I think he did take the ring from Scarecrow.
Maybe. I haven't
all
read
your
that in a while.
But yeah, he got deputized, and he got greed. And he's one of the only, I mean, this is just a side note for anyone who reads DC Vertigo, he is one of the only characters in the DC universe to meet death, the actual Sandman death.
Really?
She was in a couple Action Comics issues before it went to the 52, when he was trying to examine the Black Lantern rings and how they worked. And Death came and visited him.
So it's a well-deserved number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say that. All right. Moving on. Number 2. Will it be Harley Quinn? Bane? I don't know. I think it's Darkseid, because it is.
Keen insight.
I know, right? Darkseid.
2 Superman villains in a row, but this one's
Yeah.
definitely well-deserved, just as number 3 is.
Yes.
He hails from Apocalypse. He is Darkseid the Almighty. He has Omega Beams.
Well, you got to kind of give a structure to what he is. He's a new god. You have Superman, who's pretty powerful, could be considered godlike. Darkseid is a god. All the people that are on Apocalypse that follow him are gods as well. They're just like a next step above mortals in our universe. They're super strong, super tough. And Darkseid is the leader of the evil version of the new gods. When you bring up the Omega, well, here's a little something. DC has a multiverse. There are 52 worlds, 52 universes. Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3 through 52. So that means there are 52 Supermen. There are 52 Batmen. There are 52 Green Lanterns. Hal Jordan, whatever. There's only one Darkseid in all of the multiverse. One Darkseid.
And he rules over all the multiverse? Or is it just...
Well, you have the Grant Morrison did a little map of it. So you have all the multiverse here, then you have Apocalypse is right in the middle. And in the new 52 Justice League, that was who the League had initially banded together to take down, because he was coming in with his parademons and he was trying to basically ready the world to take over, turn it into a mini apocalypse. And the Justice League had to band together to take him down.
Yeah, Batman infiltrated it by taking his mask off and showing him that he was human, and they actually picked him up and carried him in.
I mean, his power, the powers that he has, super strength, invulnerability, master tactician, and he has, as mentioned, the Omega Beams. What the Omega Beams are, they're blasts from his eyes. Now, they're not like a standard optic blast or heat vision where they just go straight. They follow any target. So if Superman's trying to fly away and dodge it, they're going to follow him completely. And they have multiple effects. They can disintegrate someone in one hit. They can actually send someone through time. They can heal someone. They have multiple abilities. In fact, during the Final Crisis, which was before the New 52 reboot, he ended up... The New Gods had died and were coming back, and they were taking mortal form to kind of like as a chrysalis cocoon to come through in our world. And the dark side version that was there was in Gotham City, and he had his scientists take Batman right after the RAP crossover. And basically, he's like, I need new armies. Parademons aren't doing it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the mightiest human, clone him, and then take the things from his mind that make him Batman. All of the tragedy, all of like everything that makes him Batman, and take that from Batman's mind and then put these into these new soldiers and send them out upon the world. Now the problem is that none of these bodies were actually able to just handle all that stress.
Yeah. Oh.
It killed them. They started ripping their eyes out and stuff like that. Batman figured out that he was being like in his dreams, which is because they were keeping him under. He figured out that he was being screwed with, woke himself up, got free, and he had this God Killer bullet, which had taken down another new god, and they pulled it out of him, put it in a gun, went and shot Darkseid with it. Now, if you are that crazy powerful and malevolent that Batman has to pull out a gun, which he's totally against using because that's what killed his parents, to shoot you with it, and then he shot Batman with his Omega beams, and everyone thought Batman had died, when in reality he had set Batman through time.
Why wouldn't he just disintegrate Batman?
He's Darkseid? I don't know.
Because Batman's trying to shoot him with the golden gun of DC Universe.
It was probably more of an insult. Like, I could just kill you outright, but instead I want to make you suffer and work your way back and continue to live your pathetic mortal life, you know.
I could see that being worse
Who
than
knows?
just
Maybe
disintegrating.
he thought of a use to use Batman later for.
I mean, when did he send him back in time?
He ended
Remember
up,
the era?
he shot him with it. Well, when Batman shot him with the gun, he shot him in the shoulder. He wounded him so that the Flashes, Barry, who had just recently come back from the dead, and Wally basically pissed off the Black Racer, who is a new god, who is basically death, and ran him towards Darkseid. And so they were able to take out Darkseid. Batman wounded him. When he nailed him, okay, I'm not an expert in Grant Morrison's psychology or how he writes everything because I don't do drugs.
Yes.
But basically, it was a trap so that when Batman would come back to the normal timeline, basically it would explode and take everyone out. That's kind of the idea. But again, I don't speak Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
I read it. I enjoy it. But
Where he came up with half the stuff he did.
exactly. Like I said, I don't do drugs, which he does.
Yeah.
Sound like you know him
Morrison,
personally.
If you're watching, you do drugs, I guess.
Apparently,
The
he
man
knows
has
you
his own
personally.
con. The man has his own con, and it only has like 60 people that go to it because the prices are so ridiculously expensive. And when you go to Grant Morrison's con, you hang out with him and he DJs, and then you just go like smoke weed all day.
Spoiler
I don't know,
alert,
that's what they do.
what happens at Grant Morrison Con.
Yes.
So if you want to come on the show, Grant, you're welcome to.
There's a seat right here.
It sounds like a good time.
Me
to
and Camel smoke doobies while Darren craps on your writing.
Anyway,
I like the writing. I just don't get it half the time.
so Darkseid is the all-omnipotent, beastly dude that runs all universe.
He is like the equivalent of Thanos in DC, but oh wait, he came first too. Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
wow. Just throw another jab in there. Team DC.
Team DC.
Yeah, his first appearance was
I feel like we should make
in
shirts for
My
this.
Pal Jimmy Olsen.
Because if anyone needs
His
a
pal Jimmy Olsen.
because if anyone needs a villain of that caliber, it's Jimmy Olsen.
Who created Thanos?
I just thought that was always
Thanos,
funny.
I think it was Jim Starlin.
Oh, all right.
Or yeah, I think so.
Why couldn't it be Rob Liefeld? I knew it wasn't, but I just want to know who it was. All right. So Thanos, Darkseid.
Strike that, reverse it.
Scratch that.
But he has this little planet where he has all these other new gods that follow him and will not step in his way. He has slaves. He has all these slave people that he just, even if you free them, they'll go back to Darkseid.
Yeah.
He took his own child. There's because you have Apocalypse, you have New Genesis. New Genesis is like the antithesis of Apocalypse. You have all the good new gods live there. In order to broker a peace, Highfather, who's essentially like good version of Darkseid.
It's his brother, essentially.
Yeah,
isn't it?
gave up his son scot-free, who's the Miracle Man, and gave him to Darkseid, and Darkseid gave up his son Orion to Highfather. And just like the crazy like depths of evil that Apocalypse is, Scot-free ended up escaping, and that's why he's known as like the greatest escapist, because he was able to escape Apocalypse. But you have things like Granny Goodness and her Furies. Yes, Granny Goodness. It's a Kirby thing. It's a silver
And Caliban.
Yeah, Caliban.
Godfrey,
Caliban.
Glorious Godfrey.
Caliban. Glorious Godfrey.
The Boom Tubes, the
yeah.
Parademons. He's responsible for a huge part of DC.
But he's, Superman can stand up to him, but he's generally beaten Superman most times.
Yeah.
I mean, in the old animated series, I mean, the fights that they had were epic.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman had to go all out in one of the fights, like Darkseid stomping on his face, and he uses his heat vision to burn right through his foot. Like you have to go all out on this guy.
Yeah.
Darkseid. I'd give him number 2. It's a solid number 2. Number 1 is going to happen right after I describe what we've already gone through. Number 10, we start off with Black Manta. Number 9, right? We started off with whatever that was, Vandal Savage. Number 8, Ra's al Ghul. Number 7, Deathstroke. Number 6, Black Adam. Number 5, Sinestro, well-deserved. Number 4, Reverse Flash. Number 3, Lex Luthor.
Thank you.
Number 2, Darkseid. And number 1, I think it's Convergence.
Oh,
The biggest villain in all of DC.
Convergence sucked.
And now, the real number 1 out of our top 10, which if you tuned in last week to Deadpool's, we have all decided that it is the Joker. Ha ha ha.
Mr. J.
So, why did we choose Joker out of all these other guys?
Oh man, why not? He's the epitome of evil. He's the epitome of chaos. In my opinion, if you look up chaos in the dictionary, his face should be there.
With that big old grin.
No, nobody can tell what he's gonna do from one moment to the next. Who else could be Batman's arch nemesis?
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Arguably one of the most successful villains in all of DC history. That's why he's our number 1.
Yeah. And he's a fan favorite. I mean, you can even add that onto the overall list there.
He, in our world, makes little kids cry before they go to sleep.
Especially in Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And that was just one aspect of the character. Mm-hmm. That was Heath Ledger getting to know this character.
Yeah.
Delving down, reading about this character. And it was just only one aspect of, what we got to see in that role. He doesn't care whether he kills. He doesn't care to maim. Everything is in limits.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's animals, children, women. It doesn't matter. He'll shoot your grandma in the face and laugh.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who gets in his way either. It doesn't matter if you're Batman, if you're someone else. He will figure out a way to make your life incredibly miserable. Like during the Death in the Family, Teen Titans come to town to help out. What happens? Flash starts running around. He's like, "Oh, hey, Flash, guess what? I knew you were coming to town, so I put a dust on all your area, and it's, infected everyone with Joker toxin. Now you guys have to deal with that." He's as tactical, arguably, as Batman.
Mm-hmm. He's smart and lunatic at the same time.
Yeah, he uses chaos as a tool.
Yeah.
It honestly, it doesn't end there. The mystery engrosses the character. We don't really have a definitive origin story about the Joker. Some people say his real name is Jack. That's the closest thing we got. Mm-hmm. Some people say that once he was a comedian that had worked on the side from a mobster family and borrowed money so that him and his wife could get by and couldn't pay it back in time. And, that's where the scars and the acid and the whole thing came from. There are other stories that, you know, he was beaten by his father, and those are where the scars came from. It's endless. Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And that provides a really awesome mystery and makes the character as scary as he is, you know? It drives it home.
Like, what is really going on inside that head, too? You got any good?
He's killed a robin.
Yeah.
He beat Jason Todd within an inch of his life with a crowbar, and then he locked him in a room with dynamite.
Continuously taunts the Bat family all the time about it.
Always.
And then when Batman tried to come after him, he got diplomatic immunity as ambassador to Iran. And Superman's like, "Hey, you can't do anything to him. He's got diplomatic immunity." And Batman's like, "Well, screw you. I'm going after him."
When did that happen?
Oh, that was Death in the Family.
Oh, Death in the
When-
Family, yeah.
When they killed off Jason Todd.
Yeah.
He crippled Batgirl. He was the one who basically, you know, showed up to Barbara Gordon's apartment, shot her right in the back, and then took pictures of her as she's laying there naked and sent them to her father to make him go crazy.
Which that will be getting made into an animated movie and has an R rating. They just announced.
Nice.
So.
He's even the Superman villain from the Fifth Dimension, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Do you know who he is?
I have no
All
idea.
right.
That's out of my realm,
Slight
man.
backstory. Basically, these creatures from the fifth dimension, when they come to our reality, they have power, infinite powers. They're like genies. And Mr. Mxyzptlk will show up and he'll be like, mess with Superman, and Superman has to make him say his name backwards, and it sends him back home for like a limited time. And then he'll come back. Just always kind of messes with him. Well, Joker's like, hey, why don't you give me 1% of your power? He's like, well, okay, what's that going to hurt? But the Joker kind of conned him out of 99% of his power and left him with 1% of his power. And he became Emperor Joker.
Emperor Joker was awesome.
Yes. And he basically like he had Batman, and every night he would kill him, and then every day he'd bring him back. He drove Batman crazy by doing that constantly because he left him with after they defeated him, they left him with that memory. And the Spectre had to come and take that away from him, and he gave that to the Joker. So it just made him even more crazy.
It's like, look at, you know, when some superheroes or supervillains want to take some time off. You don't see them for a while. They quit wearing the costume. They just lie low for a bit. Joker wants to take a break. Can't mistake that mug. So what do you do? He gets his own face cut off so he can disappear for a while.
Yeah, at the start when the 52 started in 2012, the Detective Comics, the first issue of Detective Comics had him basically have someone cut his face off.
It was Dollmaker's son. He asked Dollmaker to do it because Dollmaker was one of the best Batman villain surgeons in the whole world. And he's like, hey, you know, come cut my face off. I want to leave. And he's like, well, I sent my son. Joker killed his son, and he goes, no, I asked for you. Show up here and do the job.
And yelled it to his jail cell and escaped. We didn't see him for a year.
That's awesome.
He sent the face to Gotham City, sent it to the GCPD. It arrived in the mail. Jim Gordon opened it, and it was the Joker's face.
Oh, that's creepy.
The way he deals with threats from people is just, it's unlike any other. Like, for example, the annual for Batman Endgame, when that was going on. That reporter who didn't respect the Joker, he thinks, oh, he's a gimmick, he's a spectacle. I'm going to actually infiltrate it and get a story with him, and he's going to tell me what's what, and I'm going to make him seem like not that dangerous. I've sat down with, you know, warlords who've ordered people to kill, like, entire civilizations and stuff like that. This ain't nothing. Well, he goes and finds the Joker, and he's in the middle of a classic Batman and Robin scene, and he's like, hey, you know, I just saw something funny. You have no friends. You just use all these people, and you're all alone. He's like, really? He gets taken down, but he never, like, breaks eye contact with the guy. He goes, you know, find out Joker breaks out later. The guy finds a note in his apartment. It's basically like, hey, best friend, I'm going to come and find you. You know, and throughout the years, he kept visiting this guy and just tormenting him and making his life just hell. Just because he tried to point out a flaw in the Joker's personality. Killed his wife. He came home and he was, like, dancing with his dead wife. And he's like, well, I couldn't have any competition, so I had to get rid of her. Killed his best friend and roommate. You know, he's just insane.
It doesn't really matter how powerful you are. If the Joker is... it has his eye on you, he's going to use your friends, your family, your power, anything you have against you. And it's going to bring you to your knees, and you're going to beg and cry to wake up.
Yeah. I mean...
Pure tenacity.
Yeah, I'd have to say, enough said. I mean, Joker. I mean, I say that concludes our number one. which he's.
It ends
absolutely
with an
incredible.
awkward silence because he's not to be messed around.
Yeah,
with.
no, it's one of those things you think about. If you could imagine him in real life, OMG. I mean, that's in capital letters. I mean, that's not even, something to mess with. That's crazy. All right. Yeah, if you guys have not much more to say, we'll move on to our outro. Sweet. Here we go.
If you don't know the Joker by now, then you need to wake up to pop culture a little bit because he's a character to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the new Suicide Squad movie coming out. He actually looks vicious in this one, too.
We'll see how his take is on it. I noticed that I had a problem with the tattoos at first.
Yeah.
I couldn't see Joker actually sitting like in a tattoo chair like all day long getting tattooed. But once I found out that it was Harley Quinn that was the tattoo artist, I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
So we're going to see. I'm not crazy about the grill, but I hear that there's stories behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets all his teeth knocked out.
Yeah.
So, we're going to leave it to it and see how it goes. Supposedly he has cameo in, Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, and supposedly Batman has a cameo in the Suicide Squad.
Awesome.
So, starting to, cross over a little bit, like the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Well, they got to keep up because they have the best cartoons ever.
Yep.
I mean,
Still do.
Yep.
yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, so that concludes today's episode, number 4, on the top 10 DC villains overall. All right, that was including a lot of things, fan base, all above, DC history, and how bad they were. So next week, we're going to be coming out to do the current X-Men run, which is Extraordinary X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, All New X-Men. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with that, MPOX, and then we're going to talk about the wonderful Cocoon people, the Inhumans.
Inhumans.
and the rise of the Inhumans, and why they're coming out, and why Marvel's pushing them away, pushing away the mutants with the MPOX. So it's gonna be a fun, interesting discussion. But before we do that, we have to talk about what's coming out next week, and we're gonna start off with Darren.
Lucifer number 3. That's my pick.
Opposed to the show. How do you like the show?
Show sucks. Show sucks. Don't watch it. It's bad. It's horrible. It has nothing to do with the character.
Spoiler alert.
Read the comic. The comic is good.
Yes, comic is very good. I'm reading the first 3. I fully enjoy them. Darren, all right, Danny.
Yeah, that's Danny. I'm gonna go with Carnage number 5. Blake recently lent me this book series, and I'm not a huge symbiote fan, but it reads like a horror book. I'm really into it right now, and it's filled with symbionts and Eddie Brock, and it reminds me a little bit of like a detective story / cave-in horror with symbionts.
That was a perfect description.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
I'm really into it.
it's a great book. It's only on issue 4, coming out 5 next
Yeah.
week. That's gonna be a great
Yeah.
one.
That sounds really cool, actually, because I love symbiotes and I love horror movies.
Yeah.
My pick for next week will be I Hate Fairyland number 5.
Yes.
Awesome book done by Scotty Young. The art's just amazing. I want to see how Gertrude manages to get through the dungeon of the dead guy. And see if she can beat Happy and get out of there.
Yeah.
I am also such a huge fan of this book. It's been kind of the highlight of the year for me.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that.
It's refreshing.
Great book. And they also have the F Fairyland variants, which are awesome to look
Get
at.
those every time they
Yeah.
come out. Too.
Every
Those are
time you
great.
got to get one. Then my final pick, it was going to be Grumpy Cat and Pokey number 1, but I was hearing a lot of flack from these guys, so I decided not to do that.
As it should be.
So I'm going to go with my favorite, the Inhumans. Uncanny Inhumans numbers, I think it's 5 that comes out.
6.
Yeah, it's 5. It's either 5 or 6.
Supposed to deal with the Quiet Room.
It's a damn
Yeah.
good book.
In the Quiet Room. And then I saw on the cover of the Squadron Supreme number 6, Black Bolt is he's the man in that book.
Why is he on Squadron Supreme?
I don't know. We're gonna find out.
You'll have to read to find out.
You have to read to find out. But yeah, Uncanny
Hyperion will kick his
Inhumans.
butt.
so you think.
Yeah, so I know.
All you have to do is yell. And sign on to our website, www.theheroesedge.com, to log on to our blog. And you can actually comment and say what you think, what you like, what you want us to broadcast on. Or, if it's up in time, you can even suggest what our top 10 DC villains should have been. Because there's a lot more out there that we could have toyed with. All right, and that concludes that. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful week reading comics.